All right, last objective here. This is kind of an important objective. I'm going to star next to it. So um, it's going to introduce us to this idea that we might see throughout this chapter 2. Determine if there's an association between two categorical variables and describe the association if it exists. So an association is knowing the value of one variable help us predict the value of the other. And if not, then we say there's no association. Okay. So we have to use some caution, though. Do not confuse association with cause and effect. There may be other variables involved. There's this phrase in stats that says association does not imply causation. Just because two things are associated doesn't mean that there's a direct cause and effect relationship amongst them, right? There can be other things involved that help create or help predict your response. Okay, so be aware of that we can't always link two things directly. There's, we know life is full of many different things. All right. Okay, so here's an example for us to look at when there's an association and when there's not. So if you look at this first segmented bar chart, notice that for male and female, there's some differences within the bars. So what this means is because the bars are different, being a male and being a female will help predict what you're going to choose. So we would say that, oh, females look like they predict telepathy more, or females look like they're going to choose telepathy more, whereas males look like they're going to choose freeze time more. So there is an association here because your bars look different. Okay. Now, if we look at the second segmented bar chart, look, the female and male column look identical, right? They both look like freeze time is the most. They both look like super strength is the least. So in this case, it wouldn't matter if you're female or male. The gender doesn't matter. You'd be equally likely to pick one or the other, whether you're male or female. And in this case, there'd be no association. And again, that's because the bars look the same. Bars look the same. And gender doesn't matter, just like I wrote right there. Gender doesn't matter. So if we're looking for an association, we want different bars. Okay, so let's take a look here. Use the graph. So the example, is there an association between class and survival on the Titanic? Use the graph to determine if there's an association between survival status and class of travel for passengers on the Titanic. Explain your reasoning. If there is an association, briefly describe it. So this is the same segmented bar chart we just made. So obviously the bars are different, right? So I'm going to write that down right here. Bars are different. So because the bars are different, there is an association. So this is going to be a 2-sentence kind of, not, I don't want to say memorize, but like it's a pretty common form you're going to follow. So because the bars are different, we're going to say there is an association between survival status, I'll make that capital, survival status, and class of travel, because the survival percentages are different for each class of travel. So that's sort of like you're generic, right? There is an association. If there wasn't an association, you'd say there is no association because between survival status and class of travel, because the survival percentages are the same for each class of travel. And then you wouldn't describe anything else. But now, because of association, we're going to describe, and you're just going to make a generic comment about the results. So this is what I'm going to say. First class was most likely to survive, whereas third class was least likely to survive. Was least likely to, sorry, to survive. Again, you use the word die, but I tried to be a little bit more sensitive to those who are empathetic and caring. There is an association between survival status and class of travel because the survival percentages are different for each class of travel. Again, this idea of being different. So then I say first class was most likely to survive, whereas third class was least likely to survive. And that's good enough for me. All right, so good luck with this homework. Hope it goes well.